Welcome back. So, our lead story this evening, the bodies of 31 people believed to be illegal miners have been found in an abandoned mine shaft in Welkom in the Free State. They are believed to be Lesotho nationals. The Department of Mineral Resources says they died on the 18th of May. For more on this story, I'm joined by Free State Premier's spokesperson, Sello Dithebe. Thank you so much, Mr. Dithebe, for speaking to us this evening. Can we start off just by looking at the scope of the problem of illegal mining in the Free State? We heard there from David van Wyk from the Benchmarks Foundation that we have roughly 6,000 abandoned mines in South Africa. What does the situation look like in the Free State specifically?
Well, it is pretty much what picture he has painted about illegal mining in South Africa, with a specific focus on the Free State. We know, for example, that the Machabeng area in the Leffeliputsa region is pretty much based, that is its economy, on the primary sector of the economy, mining, in this particular instance. And of course, those shafts are often scenes of crime, as we have seen with these 31 bodies.
Given the scope of the problem, what has the Office of the Premier done in the Free State to try and curb illegal mining? We know, and as we heard there, it is a complex problem.
Well, the Office of the Premier obviously is focused at coordinating activities of departments within the provincial government. There are clusters with various departments, notably Public Works, Agriculture, and others, focusing solely on economic activities with the view to improving the livelihoods of people. And obviously this leads to us working with the National Department and various other departments, national government that is, and various other departments, the MRE being one of them, so that we can focus on improving the socio-economic conditions of the people of the Free State and trying to disincentivize the kind of activities that we have seen that have led to the 31 bodies that we've seen in this area.
As you were online and listening to the previous interview, I'm sure you heard Mr. van Wyk alluding to the fact that it seems that mining conglomerates, often of them international companies, seem to run riot over local governments when it comes to sharing their closure plans, making sure that they adhere to regulations. Do you feel that that is the case? I know we are very much beholden to some of these big companies for a large portion of South Africa's GDP, but we also have to be very honest with ourselves when local governance, is the price we pay.
Hello, that question certainly is directed to me, I guess?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. Yes, indeed. Well, look, this is a capitalist system, and it operates obviously within the framework of the law. And we have to ensure that to the extent that the law provides for this or that environment to exist for people to exploit natural resources, that nonetheless they obey the law. There is a lot of money, for example, that is out there waiting to be used for the rehabilitation of these shafts, and the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy is hard at work to ensure that that happens. The gentleman from the Research Foundation mentioned other possible uses of those shafts, and one of them, of course, could be with regards to the use of electricity, like the gravity energy storage method of providing electricity to communities, which is something that the provincial government certainly is looking at, so that those mine shafts are not lying idle, thereby attracting criminal activity. So we will, of course, from time to time have to look at structural reforms, influence national government, to ensure that these mining companies do not simply leave big holes in the earth as soon as they are done with their business, but that they contribute quite importantly to the economy of the area.
Do you think there is perhaps scope in terms of making sure that those companies are liable for a much longer time? Mr. van Beek also referred to countries elsewhere in the world where if a mining company does not meet the demands of the law, they are liable to be prosecuted for up to 100 years. I'm not sure how our law compares to that, but perhaps, is there scope to improve that?
Yeah, look, certainly government will always look at the best international practices to the extent that that which happens in other countries is a mirror reflection of what happens in the extractive economy in our own country. Certainly nothing should stop us from looking at the possibility of having something similar to that. The specific details I may not be able to provide you with those at the moment, but anything that in the long term can help to prevent what is happening where there is just a nightmare of lawlessness. Because remember, as these people engage in these illegal activities on the various properties of mining houses, and not only do they pose a threat to those assets, but even to the public infrastructure that government largely is responsible for. We have seen with the railway tracks, we've seen with the whole gamut of other things, pump stations and whatever other things that they regard as valuable, which they will go and ply elsewhere. This, scrapyards and so forth. So it is something that requires a very comprehensive approach involving the private sector, in particular the mining houses and government. And that is indeed ongoing, but it is a very multifaceted approach that requires an eclectic approach.
Is the Office of the Premier speaking to the government of Lesotho or the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Lesotho regarding the problem? If a large number of illegal miners working illegally here in South Africa are from Lesotho, then surely there needs to be some collaborative effort in addressing it.
Well, it is not always all doom and gloom. I just want to, for a few seconds, refer to the Dithebe Dam, which will be responsible for providing water to people of South Africa via Gauteng, for example, via the Free State to Gauteng, for example. And that and many other activities, including improving bilateral relations between the government of South Africa and that of Lesotho, is something that national government certainly bringing the provincial government on board via the Department of International Cooperation and Relations will always be assisted with. So it's not certainly something that the provincial government on its own going on its own initiative to engage the government of Lesotho. It will do that obviously through the government, national government. But yes, it is not something that the provincial government is unconcerned about.
Thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us. That was Free State Premier Spokesperson Sello Dithebe.